Have you ever felt that there is something more to reality than what your physical eyes can perceive? Perhaps in moments of deep meditation or prayer, you've experienced brief glimpses of a higher consciousness, a connection to something divine that transcends our ordinary awareness. Many spiritual seekers describe this sensation as a third eye opening, a moment of clarity where the veil between the material and spiritual worlds momentarily parts. This is not coincidental, nor is it merely poetic imagery. What you're experiencing is the awakening of one of the most mysterious and sacred parts of your being, one that ancient spiritual masters understood profoundly, but that modern society has largely forgotten. Today, we journey together into the profound mystery of the pineal gland, what the ancient Gnostics called the divine eye, the seat of the soul, the physical doorway to spiritual dimensions that resides within your own brain. This small, pine cone-shaped gland that modern science has struggled to fully understand was revered by ancient spiritual traditions as the biological connection point between human consciousness and divine awareness. The ancients knew what many of us have forgotten, that this tiny gland is not merely a physical organ, but a spiritual technology, designed as a receiver and transmitter of higher dimensional frequencies, a biological antenna that, when properly activated, allows us to perceive realms beyond the material world. If you've been feeling spiritually disconnected, struggling to deepen your meditation practice, or sensing that there's a higher truth just beyond your grasp, the wisdom I'm about to share about your pineal gland might be the missing key to unlocking your next spiritual breakthrough. The pineal gland has been referenced throughout spiritual traditions for thousands of years, often symbolized as a pine cone, an eye, or described as a sacred center of spiritual perception. In esoteric Christianity and Gnostic teachings, this gland holds particular significance as the physical manifestation of what Jesus referred to when he said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." This single eye, or third eye, references the pineal gland, which the ancient Gnostic masters understood as our biological connection to higher consciousness. They recognized that this small endocrine gland, positioned at almost the exact geometric center of the brain, serves as more than just a producer of melatonin, as modern science recognizes. The ancient masters taught that the pineal gland is actually a dormant spiritual organ, capable of perceiving dimensions and realities beyond our three-dimensional material world. This understanding wasn't limited to one tradition. We find similar references across numerous ancient cultures. The Eye of Horus in Egyptian mysticism, the third eye chakra in Eastern traditions, and even the pine cone staff carried by the Pope all point to this same spiritual center. What makes the Gnostic understanding particularly profound is its integration of spiritual insight with what we might now call quantum biology. The early Gnostics understood that the physical world is not the complete reality, but rather a lower dimensional projection of higher spiritual realities. The pineal gland, they taught, was specifically designed as the interface between these dimensions, allowing human consciousness to access divine wisdom directly, without intermediaries or institutional barriers. This is why the awakening of this gland was considered so threatening to controlling religious hierarchies throughout history. It represented spiritual democratization, the ability for each individual to access divine knowledge directly, rather than through approved channels. Today, as more people experience spiritual awakening and seek deeper understanding, this ancient knowledge about the pineal gland becomes increasingly relevant. It offers not just theoretical understanding, but practical pathways to expand our consciousness and reconnect with the divine wisdom that is our birthright. I'd like to pause here and connect more deeply with you about your own spiritual journey. Have you ever experienced moments of unusual clarity, vivid dreams that seemed more real than waking life, or spontaneous insights that you couldn't explain through ordinary thinking? These experiences might be signs that your pineal gland is already beginning to awaken. I'd love to hear about your experiences with spiritual perception or any practices you've found helpful in developing your intuition. Please share in the comments below something like, "I've experienced moments of heightened perception during meditation," or "I've been working to develop my intuition and have noticed these changes." Your sharing not only helps me understand how to better serve this community, but it also validates others on similar paths who may think they're alone in their experiences. Remember, the awakening of spiritual perception has always been a communal journey, even as it is deeply personal. Now, let's continue our exploration of this fascinating spiritual center and discover what the ancient texts reveal about its true purpose. The Gnostic understanding of the pineal gland is richly documented in ancient texts, though often in symbolic or coded language, to protect this sacred knowledge. In the Nag Hammadi Library, discovered in Egypt in 1945, we find numerous references to the spiritual eye and the divine light it perceives. The Gospel of Thomas, one of the most significant Gnostic texts, includes Jesus saying, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." Many Gnostic scholars interpret this as a reference to activating the pineal gland and the spiritual potentials it harbors. Similarly, in the Gospel of Mary, we find references to ascending through different forms of perception, moving beyond material awareness to spiritual sight. Mary describes a journey through the realms of mind, where ordinary perception is transcended and higher awareness is achieved, a process that corresponds with the activation of the pineal gland's spiritual functions. The Pistis Sophia, another key Gnostic text, describes in detail the process of light entering the body and illuminating the inner faculties, allowing the initiate to perceive spiritual realities directly. Perhaps most explicitly, the secret book of John describes the divine light descending like a drop of light into the center of the human mind, awakening the spiritual faculties dormant there. These textual references are supported by physical evidence as well. Throughout the ancient world, we find artistic and architectural references to the pineal gland. The pine cone courtyards of the Vatican, the third eye depicted in Eastern religious iconography, and the Eye of Horus in Egyptian art all point to this universal understanding of the pineal as a spiritual organ. Even the staff carried by Osiris in Egyptian mythology, topped with a pine cone, parallels the thyrsus carried by the Greek god Dionysus and the Pope's pine cone staff, all symbols of the awakened pineal consciousness. What's remarkable is that these diverse traditions, separated by vast distances and time periods, all recognized the same truth: that within the human brain exists a specialized organ for spiritual perception, one that modern science is only beginning to understand. To truly appreciate the profound nature of the pineal gland, we must understand how it functions as a bridge between different realms of consciousness. The ancient Gnostic teachings described the pineal gland as not merely an organ, but a technology, a divine technology implanted within human biology specifically to allow communication between the physical and spiritual dimensions. At the physical level, modern science confirms that the pineal gland produces melatonin, regulating our sleep-wake cycles. But the ancient masters understood its function goes far beyond this. They taught that the pineal gland contains water crystals that are capable of responding to various frequencies, including electromagnetic frequencies that are beyond our normal perception. These crystals act as receivers and transducers of spiritual energies, similar to how a radio receiver captures invisible radio waves and converts them into sound. More fascinating still, the pineal gland contains tiny crystals of calcite, similar to the piezoelectric crystals used in modern electronic devices, which respond to electromagnetic fields by generating small electrical currents. The Gnostic understanding was that these natural crystals within the pineal gland serve to receive and decode higher dimensional information, translating spiritual impulses into forms that our brain can interpret. This explains the gland's unique positioning in the brain, centrally located and yet outside the blood-brain barrier, allowing it to detect both biochemical and electromagnetic signals. The ancient teachings also explain that the pineal gland is sensitive to light, not just the light we perceive with our eyes, but subtler forms of light and energy. Modern research has confirmed this, showing that the pineal gland contains photoreceptive cells similar to those in our retinas, essentially making it a third eye in a very literal, biological sense. When functioning optimally, the pineal gland was understood to secrete what some ancient texts called the nectar of the gods, a substance produced during deep spiritual states that facilitates expanded consciousness. Some researchers have identified this substance as dimethyltryptamine, DMT, a naturally occurring compound that is structurally similar to serotonin and is a powerful catalyst for spiritual experiences. The pineal gland also influences the entire endocrine system, orchestrating the balance of hormones that affect not just our physical health, but our emotional and spiritual states as well. When the pineal gland is dormant or calcified, we experience this as spiritual dullness, emotional imbalance, disrupted sleep patterns, and a sense of disconnection from higher guidance. But, when awakened, it creates a cascade of positive effects throughout both our physical and subtle energy systems. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the pineal gland's function relates to what the Gnostics called the divine spark within humans. This spark, this fragment of divine consciousness that each human carries, was understood to be seated in or closely connected to the pineal gland. The awakening of the pineal was seen as the rekindling of this divine spark, allowing it to grow from a mere ember into a flame of spiritual awareness. This is why true spiritual awakening was described as an illumination, a flooding of the body with light. It represents the activation of this spiritual center that then radiates its influence throughout our entire being. The ancient teachings also explained that in its dormant state, the pineal gland perceives and responds primarily to the material world and its lower frequencies. But as it awakens, it begins to perceive and respond to the higher frequencies of spiritual realities. This shift in perception is what allows initiates to begin seeing beyond the illusion of separation that characterizes our normal consciousness. Where ordinary perception sees division, awakened pineal perception sees interconnection. Where ordinary mind sees random events, the awakened pineal reveals meaningful patterns and synchronicities. Where the unawakened person feels isolated and alone in the universe, the person with an activated pineal experiences direct communion with spiritual presences and divine guidance. This is not metaphorical, but represents an actual shift in the bandwidth of consciousness that one can access. Think of it like upgrading from an old radio that can only receive AM stations to a sophisticated device that can tune into countless frequencies across the spectrum. The same reality was always there, but your ability to perceive it has been transformed. This explains why spiritual awakening often comes with reports of expanded sensory perception, increased intuition, telepathic experiences, and the ability to receive information that seems to come from beyond the physical realm. These are all natural functions of the pineal gland, operating as it was designed to operate, tuning human consciousness to its fuller potential rather than remaining limited to a narrow band of material awareness. One of the most practical questions that arises from this understanding is, how can we awaken and develop the spiritual functions of our pineal gland in daily life? The ancient masters provided specific practices for this purpose, many of which have been preserved in various spiritual traditions and can be adapted for modern practitioners. The first step in pineal activation involves addressing the physical health of the gland itself. In our modern environment, the pineal gland is subject to calcification from fluoride, calcium, phosphorus, and other substances that accumulate over time, literally crystallizing around the gland and impeding its function. A detoxification protocol can help remove these accumulated substances. This includes reducing exposure to fluoride, common in tap water and many toothpastes. Consuming foods that naturally detoxify the pineal, such as chlorella, spirulina, tamarind, and raw apple cider vinegar, and ensuring adequate hydration to help flush toxins. Beyond physical detoxification, specific meditation practices were taught to direct energy and awareness to the pineal gland. One such practice involves sitting in quiet meditation and visualizing a bright light in the center of your brain, in the exact location of your pineal gland. As you breathe deeply, imagine that with each inhalation, this light grows brighter, and with each exhalation, any darkness or blockages dissolve. After several minutes of this practice, allow the light to expand, filling your entire brain and eventually your whole body. Another powerful practice involves a form of light gazing. In the early morning or late afternoon, when the sun is low in the sky and its rays are less intense, spend a few minutes gazing near, not directly at the sun, with your eyes softly focused. The ancient masters taught that this practice delivers photonic energy directly to the pineal gland, helping to stimulate its light-sensitive capabilities. Sound was also used to activate the pineal gland. Specific tones and frequencies, particularly those around 936 Hz, were understood to resonate with the pineal gland and help dissolve calcification while stimulating its energetic function. Chanting, particularly vowel sounds like E and Ah, creates vibrations that affect the pineal as well. Perhaps most importantly, the cultivation of specific emotional and mental states was seen as essential for pineal activation. The pineal responds negatively to stress, fear, and anxiety. which cause it to contract energetically. Conversely, states of love, compassion, gratitude, and wonder create the optimal conditions for pineal awakening. This explains why profound spiritual experiences often occur during moments of overwhelming beauty, deep connection, or spontaneous gratitude. These emotional states are the proper soil in which pineal activation can flourish. Sleep practices were also considered crucial for pineal development. The pineal is most active during the darkness of night, particularly during the dream state and the hypnagogic periods, just before falling asleep and just before waking. Cultivating awareness during these transitional states, a practice sometimes called lucid dreaming or dream yoga, was a key aspect of ancient pineal training. Before sleep, set the intention to remain aware as you drift into sleep, watching the images and sensations that arise without losing consciousness. Similarly, as you wake, try to maintain awareness of the dream state you're leaving, rather than immediately engaging with waking concerns. Over time, this practice strengthens the pineal's ability to maintain consciousness across different states of awareness. Dietary factors also play a significant role in pineal health. The ancient masters advocated fasting as a powerful method for spiritual awakening, and modern research suggests that fasting may indeed help clear toxins and stimulate regeneration throughout the body, including in the pineal gland. Certain foods were also recommended for pineal health, particularly those rich in tryptophan, a precursor to both serotonin and melatonin, such as nuts, seeds, and certain fruits. Dark, leafy greens provide antioxidants that protect the pineal, while fermented foods support detoxification pathways. Perhaps most importantly, the ancients understood that consistency in practice was essential. Pineal activation is not typically a sudden event, but a gradual awakening that unfolds over time with dedicated practice. Each of these methods builds upon the others, creating a comprehensive approach to nurturing this sacred center of perception. By combining physical detoxification, specific meditation practices, appropriate exposure to natural light, sound healing, emotional regulation, sleep practices, and dietary support, you create the optimal conditions for your pineal gland to begin functioning as it was designed to function, as your personal connection to divine consciousness and spiritual perception. Additionally, I've created a special meditation audio specifically designed to gently stimulate and awaken the pineal gland, using specific frequencies, guided visualization, and ancient sound technologies. You'll find the link to this resource in the description below. Whether you're just beginning your spiritual journey or have been on the path for many years, I believe the information and practices we explore on this channel will provide valuable support for your continued growth and awakening. Thank you for your presence and attention today. Until we meet again, may the eye of your spirit open ever wider to perceive the boundless love and wisdom that surrounds you always.